Hey, good evening. It's Monday night, which means it's time for another episode of the CHGO Bears After Dark podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top rated sportsbook. Go download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. How's it going, everybody? Will DeWitt, Greg Braggs is here, and we are just excited to kick off another night of Bears After Dark. And we were talking like right before we went live. I think it's good that we had a couple of days to kind of like take a step back, take a breather because of everything that transpired on Thursday night. I think if we would have done this like the next day, we would have still been a little upset. I'm sure we still are, but now we can come from a place of reason, bring in some emotion as well. But I enjoyed having a few days away, not having to think about the Bears, especially on a Sunday. And Greg, you're telling me you use this as like an opportunity to do some homework.
Yeah, like I said to you before the show, it's like when we're doing this the way we do it here at CHGO, there's so much preparation that goes into each show, especially on game days too. Right between you guys writing articles or covering the game at Soldier Field, and you're there all morning and all night essentially, and for us in studio, we rarely get to really lock into the other games. So as much as it hurts my fantasy season teams, I have 4 teams and they're all drowning because, I just don't know what's going on with any players outside of the Bears. It also really helps to look at the rest of the league to give you a more informed opinion on where the Bears are at and how far away they are or how close they are, depending on your perspective, and watching yesterday, obviously when you watch the Bills and the Chiefs, they really highlight just how far away the Bears are from that level, which is the level we all want to get to as Bears fans. But then if you look at the bigger picture of the entire scope of the NFL or even the NFC and watch a team like the Packers, lose back-to-back weeks to the Giants and Jets, it kind of gives you a more of an understanding of, hey, if the Bears can figure this out within the next 12 months, maybe, there's something there, because the Packers are on the way out. I mean, Minnesota leads the division right now. They're not going anywhere, but, and just overall, New England coming up, they got a third string quarterback gripping and ripping 300 yards passing. And you sit there just as a Bears fan. And obviously the easy answer is coaches, but you're like, damn, how can Zappy, throw for
Right.
300 yards? And it sounds like a drummer for Led Zeppelin. And our guy who is, this premier quarterback coming out of Ohio State having the struggles he is. And we all know what the easy answers are, but at the same time, it'd be nice to see Justin Fields get on that kind of swing. Coaches, offensive line, team around you, those are all big considerations, but he's also a third string quarterback playing very well to start his career.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating to watch these quarterbacks, whether it be Zappy or Cooper Rush, these guys that aren't nearly as, touted or should be as talented as Justin, and just go out there and put up numbers that I think we would all just be drooling over if Justin can ever reach that status. And obviously there's a lot of different things that go into it, but as a fan, it does eat at you a little bit to watch these other teams. And it seems like it always happens every single year. It's just a Chicago problem. But you mentioned something at the top that I didn't put in my notes for tonight, but how did it make you feel seeing the Packers just like lose that second one in a row? Because I didn't get to watch the game. I was out of the house, but when I was like just kind of score watching on my phone and I saw them lose to the Jets, like I was like pumping my fist. Like it's fun to watch the Packers lose as much as, it sucks to watch the Bears lose consistently 100%. As we have, but watching or hearing that the Packers are losing right now and things aren't what they've typically been in Green Bay, it's been good. That's a little bit of like a silver lining that I've been finding over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it made me feel a lot better about my life because like I said, the Packers are tormenting, our permanent torment over the last 2 decades. And it definitely seems like Aaron Rodgers is on his downslope. I think that's an easy thing to say. I mean, they almost, got to the Super Bowl last year. So it's almost silly to, and we appreciate you joining, Daniel. He's asking about my room. This is just my computer with all my hodgepodge of crap. I couldn't handle the helmet not being in position because I'm a perfectionist like that. But no, it definitely seems like Rodgers' days are numbered. I mean, they're 3-3. So, we've seen other years where they've struggled and they bounce back. And he is Aaron Rodgers. They were, Robbie Gold field goal kick away from the NFC Championship. And who knows, maybe the Super Bowl. But at the same time, I watched an interview with Aaron Rodgers that I found very interesting with Bill Maher, political guy, and he does this kind of kickback and relax thing called whatever that I can't remember his podcast name. I'm drawing a blank now, but he does it in the basement of his house, and it's in a bar, and they all just kind of hang out and talk very casually about anything. It's not necessarily political or sports or anything. It's just shoot the shit and see where it goes. And the only thing that came up football-wise when it came to Aaron Rodgers was he made this statement that was like, no, I'm not going to be here when the downslope of my career comes. I want to retire when I'm at the top of my game. And I found that interesting. And just in the way that he said it, I was like, hey, maybe he is going to retire here soon. He flirted with, it seemed like he was flirting with it with the Jeopardy offseason, which I was fully ready to support him. I would have DVR'd every episode of Jeopardy and I would have been his biggest fan. But now that they're starting to struggle, I don't know if he wants to go out like that, but at the same time, he just doesn't fit. Now that he's had this spiritual awakening and he's got the tattoos and the long hair and he's doing ayahuasca or whatever the drug's called, like maybe this is where he's just gotten to a point where, hey, football's been great, but I'm ready for the next chapter in my life. It seemed that way in the way he answered that question on, Bill Maher's podcast with him.
Any day, I'm more than willing to accept that. I think I've been there for years, just like you there, Greg. On a similar token, though, speaking of quarterbacks around the league and making us happy for a different reason, thoughts about Mitch and that being able to lead the Steelers over the Buccaneers yesterday? I thought that was really interesting when I was catching up in the evening, and I was like, oh, cool, the Steelers won. Had no idea about the Pickett injury, and then I was watching the highlights, like, oh, Mitch has stepped in. Oh, wow. He actually was able to kind of lead a charge here and take down Tom Brady. Good for Mitch, right?
Well, yeah, happy for him. I never have any ill will on Mitch. I find it funny that there's certain segments of Bears Twitter, some of which some guys that I appreciate some of their content, but at the same time, we as Bears Twitter can't let Mitch go. And I get it. He was the failed franchise quarterback, so you're always going to compare him to Justin Fields, but you still even have people wishing on his failures or hoping for his success as if we're still ready to prove each other right in whatever take we had on Mitch. It's it's over, guys. We're focused on Fields, but at the same time, when he threw that pass to Chase Claypool to seal the deal, it just highlighted, hey, Mitch isn't a great quarterback, but you give him good wide receivers and they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you just think about a guy Bears fans talk about bringing in a guy like Chase Claypool because it seems like he's on the outs with Pittsburgh. And we talk about all these different kind of wide receivers we can bring in. Now Robbie Anderson goes to the Arizona, I almost said Diamondbacks. I'm just so off my game. I had to change my damn washer. My washer took a crap on me last week. So I'm my mind is just completely fried right now from dealing with washer duty. But the Arizona Cardinals, picked up Robbie Anderson from Carolina. And, so we talk about all these different wide receivers, and that was just on highlight with the Pittsburgh game. Dang, look at what a good wide receiver, because he just threw that ball to a spot. Chase Claypool on the sidelines, back shoulder, turned around and grabbed it. So give Justin Fields some wide receivers like that. Let him throw it to a spot and let him come down and make the catch. You saw Justin Fields throw 2 potential game-winning touchdowns that neither, Dante Pettis and Darnell Mooney could come down with. So we certainly could use a Chase Claypool in this house, in our house. Whatever you think of him, we just don't have those caliber of wide receivers, outside of Darnell Mooney.
Sure. I mean, if Pettis came down with his, holy shit, the body contortion that he had to do to play in that ball was impressive, and yet, I don't know, made me squirm all at the same time. Now, I know Cody Demendo is going to join us in about 10-ish or so minutes, maybe 5 now, to kind of give some Monday Night Football bets as we're kind of nearing kickoff for that one, another Broncos primetime game that we're going to have to sit through here tonight. And Nicholas Moreano just actually reached out to me. He's like, dude, I'm just sitting here. Can I hop on? I'm bored. I'm just watching you guys. So I'm just going to.
No, Nick.
He's here.
I'm here, Greg. You can't do anything about it.
I like the Angry Run shirt. It's pretty fitting with kind of how you just inserted yourself into the show.
Yeah, and I know they do that on Good Morning Football on Tuesday, so I'm like a day early. I'm early to the show. I'm like, I need to talk some football. I'd like remove myself after the Bears game from all football on Sunday. I got you guys were talking about the Packers game. Went back to my parents' house for dinner. And I saw like the Jets are running all over them. Bryce Hall's doing his thing, and Sauce Gardner's going on putting on the cheesehead. It was great. It was fantastic. It was great.
That was hilarious. Props to Sauce Gardner, and what a name too.
That's true too, right? Yeah, I kind of focused on my kid's football and his game yesterday, and other than that, I just like you, Nick. I needed a mental break. 6 games it's already felt like a full season in so many different ways here, but we're only like just over a third of the way there, which is why in today's episode, we're going to rank the Bears rookies in a little while, through this third point. I don't know how to even say that elegantly, right? Like we're not at the midway point. It's not the quarter point. It's like we're a third of the way there. It's the best way I think I can say it in terms of like verbally. But guys, to start off the show, and Nick, you're here, so this will be interesting because I don't know if you saw the rundown or not, but I wanted to start today's show by looking at positives, whether it be a positive for last week's game, something from the entire season. It's been a lot of just negative scrutiny for the Bears, which has been very deserved after what we saw on Thursday night. So let's take a time just to start the show off on a positive note. I'm just going to open the floor. Who has a positive to share?
I could go real quickly. I don't know why I did this, but I rewatched the game again today. Yeah, no, it's and my girlfriend, she's like in the other room. She's like, why are you like talking to yourself and like grunting all the time? Like, cause I'm watching Bears film. That's why. And it's like, it's aggravating, but Tevin Jenkins, you guys, like out of all the things that could have been his future outcome with the Bears to how he's playing right now, that is such a positive. He's the Bears' best offensive lineman. And if you just go through and watch some of the plays that he had throughout that game, and obviously the line as a whole played terribly on Thursday night against the Commanders, but you watch 76 and what he's capable of doing and just moving people and being able to go to second level. It's not just one play where he's showing his physical dominance. It's multiple plays in a row. So I really think the way that Tevin Jenkins really just changed his entire narrative of being a guy that was an outcast to somebody that potentially could be a focal point now at a new position, that is definitely a positive when I look at the Bears as a whole and just specifically microscope it to one player.
I can't get enough positive news from the Bears offensive line because it was so god-awful on Thursday night that I'll take highlighting Tevin Jenkins, the play that you shared on Twitter today where he pretty much moved that guy like 20 yards with ease. Felt like he was just on autopilot, didn't take a lot of effort. That's when you know they're going to be a really good player, is when they make it look easy, make it look natural, effortless. It wasn't like he was like, I mean, high motor, yes, but it just looked like something that was natural to him and that he was more than the overwhelming guy in that matchup. So I like that one a lot. What about you, Greg? What's something that's been, I guess, looking at you, I guess. I don't know. I'm tired too, man. It's been a long weekend.
No, the positives for me, and yeah, I think this is a good idea to try to think about some of the positives because it has been weeks now where we're just focusing on the negative, and this is a team in a rebuild, and I definitely understand that. I think I continue to try to look bigger picture. I'm trying to be the fly on the wall in Ryan Pohl's room to figure out how he's going to approach this offseason. And that's a ways away. So it's a good exercise to just focus on the positives that are going on right now. And to me, Kyler Gordon has taken a step here these last 2 weeks. You can see the game is starting to slow down for him. Secondary overall has played really well this year. Eddie Jackson, to me, has kind of evolved even beyond what he was in 2018. The tackling in the open field, the hard hitting, He's getting the interceptions. He's showing leadership as a veteran now. And then my guy, Kendall Vildor, I always jokingly compare him to Tim Jennings, but I believe that. I see a lot of Tim Jennings in him. Tim Jennings certainly was a ball hawk when he got to the Bears, but that was like by the time he got here, he was in his third or fourth season already. Kendall's still a young player trying to develop into something like that. And I just think in terms of why I compare them, maybe the interceptions aren't there, but the way they fight, they aren't, big DBs, but they stay on their guys. They always know where they're supposed to be, and they battle. And I just love the way Kendall Vildor plays. He fought through a tough year last year with a depleted secondary, Jalen Johnson in his rookie year. So I'm sure there was some learning curve there. So secondary has been a big bright spot. There are others, but for me, that's at the top of the list, especially with the way Kyler Gordon played the last 2 weeks, specifically on Sunday.
For everyone watching, listening at home, Kyler Gordon will be featured in Two Truths and a Lie later on.
God.
So, Greg, get ready.
Maybe I'll get one right today.
I'm excited for that. But no, you hit on a lot of good ones. And Nick, I think Kendall Vildor, he's played really well over the last few weeks. And I feel like that turning point for him this season and maybe his career was that Texans game when he had that PBU that Eddie Jackson was able to get into the end zone. That was after he was getting picked on real early in this game, consistently burned. And I feel like right there is like a light bulb moment for Kendall, because since then he's been playing like at a whole different level, making more plays on the ball. And I'm just excited to see him grow from there. So I'm glad you brought it up, Greg. And Nick, I don't know if you had anything to add, honestly, there too, but if you do, feel free. And then we'll bring on Cody. I see he's waiting patiently back there.
Yeah, Kendall Vildor is a guy that, I liked when they drafted him out of Southern Georgia, right? Or Georgia Southern. And a guy that, just had to really develop and work. And yes, he was in a bad situation last year in terms of being a starter when he wasn't really a starter. He was just put in that role. But he's made the most out of his opportunity, took the coaching, and you're seeing it in his play now. So it's nice to see a guy like that who was like in a bad situation initially, right? But is able to make the most out of his opportunities and is playing some good ball right now.
Excellent. Let's bring on Cody because, dude, you're so nice because all week of last week, I was just waiting for you to reach out. Like, so Will, remember that parlay that you mentioned on air?
Yeah, I do remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
My bad. Obviously,
didn't like 2 or 3 of the legs hit? Didn't we come close?
It was close.
It was a nice sweat. Like it's hard to win parlays, Will. Like
I know, and it's like
not my first lost parlay.
Travis Kelce holding me back like that's like out of all people. And then this week he blows up yet again. I was like,
I think I've told almost everyone in the office this story, but probably not you since you're remote more half the time. I had a bet on Travis Kelce to score a touchdown and to just go over 39.5 yards receiving that night. And he got 25 and had 4 touchdowns. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make it. I'm still mad about it. It's like, that's supposed to be an easy, like, the odds were like minus 115. How, if that was going to lose, that was going to be because Kelce didn't score. No, he scores 4 times. But gets 25 yards. How do you get 4 touchdowns and only 25 yards? Oh, because you're only catching footballs at the goal line. Cool, great, thanks.
Loser.
The Bears but a goal line tight end.
Yeah, I was so bad, but yeah, no, that was that one was actually more that I went to bed more angry about that than the parlay, Will. So.
I'm glad you put one yourself that got you more angry, so you distracted yourself from mine without question. I think mine was like for 50 yards, which is something he's done almost every single game, and that's why I was like, "What the hell is going on?" But Cody, we have about 25 minutes or so until kickoff, so I want to kind of get to you for those watching live and some of your bets here for tonight. I have one that I'll share too, but maybe not as rah-rah behind it as I was last week. Peaks and valleys, and definitely hit that valley. But let's hand it over to you, man. What do you got?
Okay, so as we all know, we're part of DraftKings now, right? So I went on DraftKings today, And I love the way you can just like do like alternate yards for receiving or rushing, whatever. And it's not just for like certain players, which there's a lot of options. So I don't have a reason behind it, but I'm high on Mike Boone tonight, guys. I love Mike Boone tonight. He had over 30 yards receiving and rushing each last year, or not last year, last week, which is wild considering how bad the offense was last week for the Broncos. But one reason why I love Mike Boone is because you just can't trust Melvin Gordon. I mean, the guy's a fumbling machine. He's a fumbling machine. And somehow, some way, he didn't fumble last week. But also, like, more so other than that, too, is I think the Broncos like to use Boone as like, another pass catching back. They want to use Gordon more so in between the tackles, running the ball. But again, they used Boone both ways last week, and that was against the Colts. I think the Chargers defense it's good, but they're injury ridden right now, right? Like I honestly think we're going to see a little bit better offense from the Broncos tonight, but I'm not. I don't think it's hard to bet it, but I'm just saying I think their backs against the wall. They got embarrassed on prime time. Like their coach is like they might fire him if they put up another performance like that. Russell Wilson, everyone's calling him a fraud. I think they come out and at least look better tonight. So I like
prime time. Jeez.
I know. It's Ryan Green had the most hilarious video. He tweeted the video of Michael Scott feeding the broccoli to Kevin Malone, and it was like the broccoli was like the Broncos on prime time, like the text overlaying it, just hilarious stuff. Anyway, I in my parlay, I have alternate yards for Mike Boone to get 19 plus receiving and then 25 plus rushing, which if you take them single, it's very like the books think that's a lock basically. So I have those two, and then I have Mike Williams to get 7 plus receptions, and then Justin Herbert to get one passing touchdown. And you can get that if you use one of the odds boosts that DraftKings is giving you tonight. You can get that at plus 1062. Yeah. I think for sure Herbert's going to throw a touchdown, but there's no way he's not going to throw a touchdown tonight. And with Keenan Allen out again, Mike Williams is going to get a ton of targets. I've actually taken the Mike Williams receptions prop the last 2 weeks that they've played, and it's gone over. I'm actually taking, I think the regular line is 5.5, but if you do a parlay, it's either you take it over 4.5 or over, or not. It's either over 5.5 it's either 5 plus receptions or 7 plus receptions. It's like, but the odds are so significantly different. So I took 7 instead of 5 just to get the better odds. Hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt me. But I like him singly going over 5.5 tonight. So I think 7 is a good spot as well. So I know it's tough to bet on Mike Boone, but like that's my parlay. But I like it. So, and like I said, you can get Williams receptions over 5.5 at plus 105 on DraftKings as well. I think that's a good play considering he's going to be the number one guy, right? Like he basically has been the last couple weeks since Keenan Allen's been out. And then the last 3, okay, I'm taking the under based off the trends. I'd say it every week. I'm taking the under, and I also just feel really good about it because if you really think about it, the Broncos and Chargers aren't really that far off. Like, sure, the Chargers offenses look better, I think, but also the Broncos defenses looked really good. And you've seen glimpses of the Chargers defense looking really good too. So I just think we're going to get a mixture of bad and good from both teams tonight. So the total is 45.5. Again, the primetime trend on taking the under, it's like 11-4 this year. The under, it went over last night, but it went under on Bears Commanders Thursday night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, honestly, that one went so under that I got paid out for that bet before halftime. I'm just saying I'm sticking
That
with the
was
primetime
hilarious.
unders. I'm sticking with primetime unders all season. And I think this one I feel better about the under than I did Eagles Cowboys. And that one, the Cowboys made that comeback, which I didn't expect. But that one would have gone under if the Cowboys didn't have third quarter magic. But anyway, but lastly, I'm going to take the Broncos +4 because, like I already said, I do think the teams are not too far apart, and I think the Broncos their backs are against the wall. They have to be better than what they were against the Colts. They're going to have more fans in Los Angeles than Chargers fans. Like I think it'll feel somewhat like a home game for them. And again, they're on prime time, and they're coming off such a disgusting loss. Like, Russell Wilson has to be better than what we've seen. He has to be. Like, there is no way this guy is this bad, and Pete Carroll is the only reason that he has had a career that he's had. There's no way. So I hate it, and I don't blame you for not taking it if you don't. But I'm taking Broncos +4 because, if it was 2.5, I'd probably take the Chargers because you're giving me the field goal. But you're giving me the field goal plus another point, and I just don't really know what to expect from the Chargers because we've seen them really let down in spots where they're favorites. And the trends actually speak really highly of Russell Wilson in these types of spots. I was reading today about Russell, like the trends of Russell Wilson. I wish I could find the article, but against the spread as a underdog in prime time, he covers 67% of the time or something like that. So, again, those are trends. But I'm taking the Broncos tonight, and I like the under, and I like Mike Williams over 5.5 receptions. I hate betting the Broncos, but I'm going to do it, guys.
Well, sometimes you have to, do the things that you don't necessarily like to do. I saw this comment from Novadamas that they mentioned that they're recovering from surgery and loving the content. I just want to say, best of luck on your recovery. And of course, we appreciate the kind words about our content. And of course, we're just glad to be hanging out with you throughout this recovery process too. So definitely keep your head up and keep going strong there. And then from Daniel, hey, we're switching to DraftKings from points bet down. I didn't know. We have the logo on the screen, and I'm happy about this transition here. Cody seemed pretty excited about it too. And another reason why I like DraftKings is sometimes, I'm a little lazy or I kind of forget, I want to do a bet until it's literally right before a game. And they have some of their own quick same game parlays that they kind of come up with themselves. And of course you want to kind of vet those, but I liked tonight's, and yes, it's about Melvin Gordon. So Cody may not like it, but he's going to listen to it. So for a plus 500 bet, they have Gordon scoring a touchdown, and he's only had one this season, but there's a pattern. He's went scoreless, touchdown, and then scoreless. So today's the touchdown. Exactly. They have him going over 35 rushing yards. He averages 38.6. Again, not earth-shattering, but the Chargers give up 130 yards per game on the ground, and the NFL lead 6.2 yards per carry. So I'm assuming he's going to get those looks. They have him going for 20-plus receiving. He averages 19.6. It's right there. Looking at LA's defense, they haven't really faced many pass threats in terms of running backs for a few weeks. But the last time they did was the Jaguars, and they gave up 46 to running backs. So I think that's a strong one. And then you just have the Broncos going over 13.5 points tonight. And the Chargers give up about 27 points per game. So just less than half of that from the Broncos. So I like those parlayed, and it's only 4 legs, which is a little bit easier to hit on. And that's plus 500. And of course, from there, I don't know if you can boost those same game ones or not. We may want to test those out, but maybe you can hit some buttons and maybe you can increase those odds too. But that's the one that I saw, and they call it Armageddon, which I thought was pretty clever.
Nice, pretty good.
One thing that I love about DraftKings is you can place a bet and then it gives you the option to share it. They have their own social feed, and if you do that, it'll then notify you of people who see it and say that they're tailing you. I shared my parlay in their social feed, and I had like 9 people, or I got like 9 notifications of random people saying that they were going to tail my bet. And I was like, wow, well, that's cool. And it allows people to like leave comments and stuff. It's like, again, nice. Like your own like cool like community of people who use DraftKings.
Do you have like a profile on that and you can like have a history of it and like build a quote like following on there, or is it just like a one-off thing?
I think it's just a one-off thing. But I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you. I just noticed it today, and then I kept getting notifications from DraftKings that so-and-so like these random ass accounts just like saying that they were tailing my bet. I was like, okay.
Sweet. I was just wondering like over time if you can build like a quote following on DraftKings. I mean, maybe you could by sharing it with our listeners, but yeah, that would be really neat if that is a possibility for you, because you do good stuff and you'll win people money, and that should always help. Does anyone else have any bets tonight while we're on the subject?
Greg, you got anything?
Who's the fullback? No, I'm kidding. We're gonna hit the
taking
fullback.
The long shot.
We're gonna hit the fullback one of these days, but we can leave that out for tonight. I'll stay with my Kari Blazen game because we're gonna keep playing it till it hits, people. Okay. And
I hope
you
it
lose
hits.
all your money, Cody's already promised to reimburse you at the end of the year. Joshua Kelly.
I didn't promise that.
I'm just saying. Joshua Kelly is plus 425 for San Diego, and it seems like Herbert's been looking his way here with some injuries to wide receiver. I like how he plays. So, and then KJ Hamler, the redemption day, he's plus 475. Russell Wilson didn't find him in the end zone to end the game. He slams his helmet down. Maybe Russell returns the favor tonight on primetime, sitting at plus 475. Those are 2 guys on each side of the ball that I'd be looking at as anytime touchdown scorers. Not a fullback today. Thank you. If Cody says he likes it, then I'm making progress.
I love a good narrative. I love a good narrative bet.
I'm a narrative.
And you're going full narrative bet.
I'm a narrative-driven person, fan, especially. I love the storylines in football, in sports, really.
Mm-hmm. Good, well, good stuff there, guys. Cody, before you go, the last question I had for you is: are you getting any better at 2K? It's been about 3 weeks since we talked about it.
So now the Cubs season is over, I have a little bit more free time, so I started streaming on my YouTube channel, playing, and it's not been great. I'm glad that I've had like 4 viewers come through to see me be really bad at 2K. So we're grinding, we're getting there, we're trying. But I did my creative player or whatever his name is. I did up him to 85 overall the other day. Maybe some of the guys I play like Pro-Am or Rec with, maybe we'll get them on the stream and we'll play a little Rec League or whatever on it, and I won't look so bad because playing with them makes me look significantly better because I only have to try to do one thing. But
there you go.
I was playing a little online gameplay the other night. It was like 11 p.m. and like I used to like when on 2K back in the day, like when it first came out on like Xbox or like during like the 360 PS3 days. If you want to play online, you can just play online with whoever you wanted. And now it's like there's these different tiers that you can only play with them, and you have to win so many games in these different in this tier. And then once you win that many games, you can play with these sets of teams in the next tier, and it's annoying to me. I wish I could just play with the Bulls with every online game if I wanted to, or whatever, you know what I mean? So I've been using different teams, which I guess in a way is kind of fun because in a way it forces you to, but it's tough because I just want to get good with one team and play with it.
Mm-hmm,
so,
right.
Yeah. We're grinding. Off season's early. Well, it's been a week, guys.
I got my guy up to a 96 over the weekend, which I'm feeling good about. My power forward build and getting better. I still feel like the shots in general are just so random. Full bars just don't make it in, and it's been good. Actually, in my story mode for my player, I'm like 24 games in, and the Bulls were like 19-3 or 19-5 or something like that, leading the East. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I landed on the Hawks myself. You get to choose. I was like, I don't want to go on the Bulls because I get too invested. Go somewhere random. And like, who needs a power forward?
Yeah,
this Google search gives you that.
Yeah, my guy, I play for the Grizzlies, and I'm like a swing man, like slashing 3-point shooter. So I'm like, okay, I'll just play with Ja Morant, and like that was my thinking. Works. It's like, maybe that would be fun. And so far it has. It's just like, I stink, so I'm just trying to get better.
Whenever I get back to the studio, we're going to try to find a way to play, because I know where you're on PlayStation, and I have one, but I've been doing 2K on my Xbox because that's where my brother plays. But we'll need to find a way to test some skills and see who sucks at 2K more, because I'm sure it could be a pretty close fight here. But Cody, thanks for hopping on, sharing some bets here this evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll be listening to you throughout it.
Thanks, man. Good luck with everyone on their best tonight. And
thank you.
Also, Bears, I'm just happy that I'm not hurt today. I was hurt on Friday. So, I've gotten over it. And we're moving on. We're on to the Pats, where I'm ready to talk myself into thinking they can cover.
We'll learn more about that as the week progresses. Good luck with that.
All right, guys. Have a good night, guys.
All right, so that was Cody. We talked some Monday Night Football bets. Hope you partook in those, win some money, and enjoy that segment. Up next, we're going to talk some more Bears, play around a 2 truths and a lie, start ranking some Bears rookies. A lot of really good stuff. Before we do, I have a couple messages that I want to share over to you, our listeners. And the first one, I'm excited. There's some changes happening here with these reads. And this first one gets me really excited because it's from Shady Rays. And, Shady Rays, they never understood why sunglasses were so expensive. So they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall, because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. They are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, sustainable durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. And the best part about Shady Rays, and this is something that I've loved about them for years. I've been wearing Shady Rays, I think, for 5 years now, that they have literally the most insane protection program in all of eyewear, lost and broken replacements. Literally, if you lose or break your shades day one, they'll send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. Dropped in the lake, off a cliff, anything. They'll replace them. I lost mine for 4 months and just regretted even reaching out, because I'll find them. Never did. Reached out, I'm like, hey, I lost this pair and I bought them 2 years ago. All right, cool. Here you go. They're in the mail. That's dope. You can't find many companies that take care of their customers as good as you do with Shady Rays. And even with that strong protection program, they still manage to make quality that you can tell from just holding in the hand. It seems like they're as good as any expensive pair that I've ever worn. I have my Oakleys and I have my Shady Rays, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. You pick up one over the other. They stand behind their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem with them, that they'll throw the profit out the window and do whatever it takes to get it right. Free returns and exchanges. You'll either love the shades or Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it. So for our listeners, Shady Rays is running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. Buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all of their newest and best shades. And again, that code is CHGO, and that gives you 50% off 2 or more pairs of sunglasses at shadyrays.com.
I'm really excited for those Shady Rays, the glasses I got. I know they're going to be the best ones, but I'm really excited to get those and for everybody else at CHGO to test them out too. But I first have to tell everybody too about game time. I have to ask you a series of questions. Have you ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Bears tickets, so just go in that Game Time app. It's really easy. Whatever seat, whatever section, you can find it on the Game Time app. And if you love CHGO, then you also love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events.
All right, CHGO Bears After Dark. You already know what you're listening to. Will DeWitt, Greg Braggs, Nicholas Moreano, and we are just chilling, hanging out, talking some Bears, and luckily we've had a few days to decompress, remove ourselves from this Bears product that we've seen over the last few weeks, and now we get to come in, I would say, just feeling a little bit better than we were just a handful of days ago. Guys, are you ready for this week's edition of 2 Truths and a Lie? I know Greg is.
I don't know if I am. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
All right, here we go. And every week I try to, tinker it, make it a little bit more clear, easier to understand, follow, not throw a million numbers Greg's
You're gonna have to write this in crayon for me to understand, Will.
I think this week you're gonna get one. So round 1 of 3. Khalil Herbert was second in the NFL among running backs last week in missed tackles forced with 5. Kyler Gordon has given up 74% less yards in weeks 4 through 6 than he did in weeks 1 through 3. Darnell Mooney leads the Bears in intermediate receiving yards, which is passes thrown and caught 10 to 19 yards downfield this season with 75. Do you need me to repeat, or do you already know which one's the lie?
The last one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the last one as well. Darnell Mooney.
Nice. Ding, 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 ding. That is
one for one.
1 for 1. Good job, guys. I need like a soundboard.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I do have a soundboard. I should hook it up to my
Who
microphone.
is leading the Bears?
Who is?
Intermediate passes. Is it
Tell me.
Dante?
Ooh, Dante Pettis is 3rd.
Oh.
So it's like 50 something.
ESB? Are we calling him EQ or are we calling him ESB?
I like EQ.
I do EQ.
Fine. EQ.
One less letter. It's efficient. But no, that's not him either. So by process of elimination, who the hell is it?
Who else do we have?
It's not Cole. Cole doesn't ever catch the ball.
Yeah,
is it Cole?
Yeah, it is. Cole Kmet, 78 yards in that area of the field. He's actually 4 for 4, too. 4 targets, 4 catches, 78 yards on targets, 10 to 19 yards down the field. Who knew?
For the whole season.
So the whole season so far, yes.
That is such a depressing stat.
But I do want to highlight some of these other ones, too. So the things that were true. Kyler Gordon has given up 74% less yards in the last 3 weeks than he did in the first 3 weeks, which is really impressive. He gave up 317 yards in weeks 1 through 3. Weeks 4 through 6, that's dropped down to 84 yards allowed. So we've talked about that being a big positive at the top of the show. Kyler Gordon kind of turning his rookie season around. That is a good way to quantify exactly what he's been able to do. And yes, Khalil Herbert was second in the NFL among running backs with 5 missed tackles forced. That was second. Kenneth Walker III was the only one ahead of him who had 12. And Herbert had 5. And that was only on 7 attempts. Nobody else that had less than 10 attempts last week had more than 2 forced. And Herbert had 5.
Wow.
He is so damn good. I hope he gets more touches. I said that last week. I'm going to say it again. All right, round 2. Greg, you feeling better now?
I'm feeling much better.
Excellent. Let's get it going. First one. Justin Fields was pressured the most last week among all quarterbacks on a per dropback basis. Lucas Patrick had the second worst pass block grade, according to PFF, of all offensive linemen in week 6 before this Monday night game. And then why not stay with PFF grades here for some consistency? Tevin Jenkins is graded as a top 10 offensive guard in terms of his run blocking this year. Which one is the lie?
This is a tough one because they all feel true. Because Justin Fields was running for his life. Lucas Patrick was terrible last week. And Tevin Jenkins is the one bright spot. Even Nicholas Moreano's porting out here, like we were talking about on the timeline, the one block in particular where he's pushing guys out. So I guess I'm going to go with the Lucas Patrick.
I'm leaning that way too. Lucas, because who's worse than him, right? He was the second worst. Is that how it was?
That's how I was phrased.
Exactly, because it gets tricky with the rankings.
Who was worse?
Just that he was terrible.
But I'm going to go with that one. Going Lucas Patrick.
Right. Well, I'm going to say you guys are correct, but he wasn't the worst. He was the 5th worst. Wow. There were guys who had a 0 pass blocking grade. At least out of a scale of 0 to 100, Lucas Patrick had a strong 7.5.
Oh God, he was so freaking bad.
He's got to get moved
game.
to center. It's at a point where my phrase on Twitter is always, if something doesn't happen, we riot. And if Lucas Patrick isn't at center this Monday night, we riot. I mean, there has to be some kind of shakeup on the offensive line. I mean, they said they were going to go back and evaluate everything. And, I understand you're not, going to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound and try to pick up Robbie Anderson to salvage a season. I can understand those kind of moves. But you have players within your depth chart right now to shake this up and at least get looks to see if Justin Fields can be protected better, because the way Justin Fields was taken to the ground relentlessly on Thursday night is disgraceful, honestly, is the only word for it. You got to put the best 5 you got out there. You signed Lucas Patrick as a center, and you've played him at guard all season. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, obviously that was a little bit out of their hand a bit with the hand injury. And then Cody Whitehair's injury also made it more complicated. And I think, Nick, we mentioned it in our preview show, at least I brought it up, where I feel like the missing piece in order to make this a possibility has to be Alex Leatherwood. I think that's the only way right now.
Yeah, because even the few snaps that Michael Schofield had out there, it's like he's in there, and it's like you're not doing anything. So they're a little handicapped there in terms of like what they can do because of the people that are behind, the guys that they currently have up there. It's not better, and not unless Alex Leatherwood. There's something there. There's something there at guard that he hasn't shown so far, and obviously still very young, but. They have to try out all their options, you guys, because it can't get much worse than when it was on Thursday night.
Now, my next question for you guys is something I was going to say for later in the show, but Greg kind of took this conversation to a place where it just makes sense to just ask now. Are you worried that even moving Lucas Patrick to center won't yield the results that you thought they would maybe like 3-4 weeks ago? I'm personally curious. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't believe he can be better when he's put back to center. But when he did get signed to Chicago, we knew that he wasn't like a top tier offensive lineman in Green Bay. We were hoping for growth. We wanted to see it. We knew he was a good leader, and we can see that on the field. Like, you can see him being a leader by example, someone who pumps up his teammates and does that physical style of leadership. But is it fair to be concerned that he may not even be the center that we're all hoping for in the first place? Because it's been really bad.
I think it's fair, to be completely honest. Low expectations. Whatever moves can be made, however the whole entire unit can play, super low expectations just because of what we've seen through the first 6 weeks now. Like, it's just there hasn't been quality play consecutively, and from Lucas specifically, I know he got thrown into left guard because of injury and getting the late start because of his own injury. I don't think you want to go into the rest of the season thinking, yes, Lucas Patrick at center, we are going to be fine on the offensive line. Like, that's just not – you're just going to lead yourself down a dark, dark hole that, we're usually in as Bears fans. So I don't think that's the route you should take, but low expectations, hopefully he can exceed those.
No, I completely agree. I kind of joked with some people that were – trying to come up with these different variations of like what we can do at wide receiver or offensive line to help fix the offense. I'm like, you're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. It's not going to get, no matter, there's no configuration that you're going to put on the offensive line. There's no wide receiver group of switching these guys up that's going to fix the wide receiver group. And whether you want to play under I formation, 2 tight end set, or if you want to spread them out like Getsy's tried to do the last 2 weeks, there's always going to be a flaw within this offense because they have a talent deficiency problem. Mm-hmm. And so Lucas Patrick, yes, you move him to center, he still has a talent deficiency problem. Is he a top center in this league? No. But I do think these moves are worth trying.
Yes.
If nothing, Sam Mustipher has not been good all year, so it is worth trying. Maybe Ja'Tyre Carter isn't ready, but until we see him out there as fans, who are we to say? Coaches know, so that's their job. But at the same time, you get to a point where Justin Fields is getting bludgeoned, and you're like, it can't get any worse. Try something different. Why are these guys, as Adam Hoke said when I brought up, to your point about, well, they can't because Cody Whitehair is out and they're forced in this. And Adam Hoke said, well, then why are these players on the roster? because if they can't play, they shouldn't be on the roster. And it just speaks to the rock and a hard place this roster is at currently. There is no configuration that's going to fix this year.
No, but I mean, I think the broadcast for the game, if I remember correctly, watching it Thursday night, mentioned like for the Commanders, that was like their 5th offensive line combination of the year. And like, oh, look, maybe this is the 5th one, and they're finding some good results. Now, unfortunately, I think it's because the Bears' defensive line has been bad, and that really helps them. But it just shows like other teams are moving pieces around, and it's not abnormal to do so if you're struggling. Again, Justin was pressured the most of all quarterbacks this week so far at 57.1% of his dropbacks. He was pressured. Like Greg said, it can't get much worse than that. And it honestly, I don't care if, like you said, is Carter ready or not? I don't know if you can say that some of these guys who are out there are ready. So why not just throw another body out there and see what happens? But it's just interesting to kind of see, I think with Lucas Patrick, just to put a final point on this discussion, is like, a month or two ago, like we were just like looking at him at a totally different light and what he's going to provide this Bears offense all throughout the preseason, early parts of this regular season too, when he was alternating. Like we had completely different expectations and just thoughts about him, and that narrative is starting to change, and his play is a big part of it. All right, round 3 for Two Truths and a Lie. Here we go. Kyler Gordon, yeah, he's back, but it makes sense. He is allowing the second fewest yards per reception among rookie corners over the last 2 weeks, with 6.3 yards per catch allowed.
Say that one more time.
You got it. Kyler Gordon. He's allowing the second fewest yards per catch among rookie corners over the last 2 weeks. Next one is Trenton Gill is a top 10 punter in terms of net yards per punt at 42.6. And then the last one, I don't know why I put it. It hurts. Bayless Jones Jr. leads the NFL in muff punts.
We know that's true. We know that's true.
It's the first one with Kyler. As good as he's been, I think there's some other rookie corners like we saw with Sauce Gardner, right? He's a rookie, right? That have been playing a little better. So
what was the second one, Will?
Trenton Gill being a top 10 punter in terms of net yards per punt.
The guillotine.
I'm going that one.
Okay. Here we go, Nick.
Go. It is the Trenton Gill one. Good job, Nick. Congratulations.
No!
You went 3 for 3?
3 for 3. Got it.
Wow. Okay, so I do need to make him harder again. So see, it's like that dynamic gameplay. The AI, it adapts to you. So next week, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. But yeah, Bayless Jones, 2 muff punts, is tied for first in the NFL. Kyler Gordon has allowed the second fewest yards per catch over the last 2 weeks. The only other player in his draft class at that position that's less is Kobe Bryant at 3.8 yards per catch. But Kyler Gordon, second. Again, really turning things around. But Trenton Gill is not a top 10 punter in terms of his net. He is 15th. But if that was 0.7 yards more, so less than a full yard more on average, that would make him a top 10 punter. It just shows how close net yards per punt is. And like a 15th ranked punter is damn near close. And this is more on than a punter too, right? Like this is the coverage unit and like their ability to tackle and make those returns minimize. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it shows like how close that is. And that really surprised me. And that's why I wanted to throw it in there.
Yeah, I mean, he does punt a lot.
That too. That does play a part of it. That does hurt a little bit too. I saw Pat O'Donnell being like a top 5 punter in terms of getting punts inside the 20. I'm like, where was that, man? Where was that? But I'll digress, and we can move on to some for punter talk. But 2 truths and a lie. Hope you enjoyed it. Played along at home. I always enjoy kind of trying to diagnose and find some good ones each and every Monday. But Nick, I know you have some things that you have to do this evening. And before you go, I wanted to begin ranking the Bears rookies through 6 games. So I sent everyone a list or put it in like our program for our show notes of all of the rookies that have played at least 10 snaps or more in offensive defense. Besides Trenton Gill, obviously, as a punter, he's going to have the special team snaps. Now Jack Sanborn, Carl Weatherford, Blackwell, they've all played a lot of special team snaps. So I did not know if we should put them in here or not. No one told me throughout the day if we will. I didn't put them in my final list because, again, they're just in coverage units, and that's a little bit different to kind of weight than someone that's playing a lot of defensive snaps. So we have the guys that played on Lee's offense or defense, Jaquan Brisker, Treston Ebner, Trenton Gill against special teams only, Kyler Gordon, Braxton Jones, Jalen Jones, Bayless Jones Jr., a lot of Jones, and Dominique Robinson. So those are the players I think qualify for this list. Who is your top rookie, Nick?
Top rookie is Jaquan Brisker, and I think that might be a consensus for everybody. If I'm looking at the head nods, okay. I think it gets a little interesting though once we get right past this. And we were talking so highly of Kyler Gordon. What has he done for me lately, right? And I know he had a rough start, as any rookie corner probably would, but he's my number 2 guy in terms of what he's doing right now for the Bears and playing both the nickel, the outside, and not missing any snaps usually. He's going to play consistently throughout the entirety of the game, but I have Kyler Gordon as number 2. Who's your number 2? Both of you guys.
Well, do you want to give these away, Will? I mean, yeah,
that's my thought. We can do some, but we'll see. I mean, I have plenty of extra talking points for us if we run dry here. Yeah, so go ahead. We'll do them now. So 1, 2 for you are. I think we all agreed on Brisker being number 1. He's been the most consistent rookie throughout 6 games. So that one I think was pretty cut and paste, clear and dry. What about you, Greg? Who's number 2 for you?
Yeah, I'm right there with him. It's Brisker and then Kyler, and I'm liking where you're going with this, Nick, because to me, Kyler is getting close to where Brisker is. Yeah, he started slower, but as you mentioned, it's way harder to cover as a corner in this league than to jump in as a safety next to Eddie Jackson. And, Brisker's had a great start. He's also had some moments, you saw in the Giants game, maybe there was a coaching flaw with the quarterback rollouts where he's getting caught, lost in the shuffle in the middle of the field and letting Daniel Jones get out there, but at the same time they're neck and neck at this point, and that's a great thing for the Bears because these are their first 2 picks in the draft, and they're playing really well at this point. I know people probably were hoping for offensive players, but at the same time it's nice to see Ryan Poles pick a couple guys that look like he hit on and aren't complete busts. It's still a long way to go, but some very bright signs from both of those guys. I'm right there with you, Nick. 1 and 2, Brisker, Gordon.
I saw Laz in the comments. I just threw it up for a few moments there, but he just mentioned that Kyler Gordon has been very good against the run. And you're right. He has been good, which is very important in this Bears defense for the slot corner to be someone who can be effective against the run. And he's embraced that. You can tell that he doesn't shy away. He can be a very physical player, and that's only going to help him throughout his career. And I do like what I've seen out of him over the last 2 weeks in terms of his open field tackling. I think that's been something that in the first couple of weeks wasn't there. He was missing a few of those tackles, hesitating a bit, overthinking instead of just reading and reacting. And you can tell when you watch Gordon that the game is slowing down for him a little bit. He's not as overwhelmed. And as much as maybe we were kind of annoyed by the inside-out approach that the Bears were deploying with him early, and we saw those early struggles, and we're just pick a damn position and stick with it. Now we're starting to see it pay off a little bit, this versatility of his, and I think it's only going to make him a better ball player down the road, smarter, and make this game one that is not too tall for him whatsoever. So yes, Kyler Gordon is my number 2 as well. I think if you look at the last 2 weeks, though, an argument could be made that Gordon could be number 1, Brisker number 2 as well.
Yeah, 100%. Especially the last 2 weeks. Yeah, Gordon. I spoke to him after the game just last week, and he said because of such a short week, he had to do a lot of mental reps, so it wasn't even a lot of practicing. He just was focusing on the playbook, the film, and he said he just read his keys. That's why he was in good positions to make those tackles. There was a play where there were 3 guys blocking. One of them was Charles Leno Jr. Gordon is able to beat him around the corner and get a hand on the running back, and it would have easily been a touchdown, but it's like those plays right there. That shows me that you're getting it, and it's nice to see from Kyler Gordon.
All right, number 3. Greg, I'm going to let you kick off number 3.
Yeah, for me, number 3, it's close between Braxton Jones and Dominique Robinson, but I'm going to go with Braxton Jones at this point. He had some big time struggles here in this last game, but we're looking at the totality of the 6 games. And you also have to understand that a 5th round rookie left tackle is going to have his struggles at some point this year. And Montez Sweat is a bad dude. And, he's going to make a lot of guys look bad like he did with Braxton Jones. But overall, you have to like what you've seen so far from Braxton Jones, a good developmental left tackle. Who knows if the league's gonna catch up to him, figure out what he's not good at. But at this point, he's done very well in his short amount of time in the league.
All right, Nick, do you agree with Braxton Jones at number 3?
I don't, and I don't know if just last week really, painting a bad image for me for Braxton Jones, but he's a 5th round draft pick. So is Dominic Robinson, though, Greg, and he's been quiet, though. That's the thing. Like, I was putting him here at 3, but the last 3 weeks, not a single pressure whatsoever in terms of hit, hurry, sacks.
That's why I dropped him down. I agree.
Yeah, like the whole front 7, honestly, they can look at themselves like, where are we at? They haven't been a part of the equation in terms of trying to get pressure on these opposing quarterbacks, but he did start off the season off hot, and I think that he is still obviously learning this new role. It was actually after the Giants game where he didn't register a sack part of the last 3 weeks, but I asked him how he played, and he thought, he read his keys. He didn't allow any big runs, I guess, to his side when he was on the field. So obviously he's going to be learning, but you really look at those impact plays, and it's easy to see. Like, if you don't have them, well, you're maybe not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But it's the little things, too. So I have Dominic Robinson, for me, as number 3. What about you, Will?
See, you guys are putting me in a rock and a hard place, but I have Braxton Jones as my number 3. I'm a big fan of Dom Rob. Everyone in this podcast knows that. But I think when you look at the whole big picture, I know that, Robinson had himself a fair share of splash plays. But I do think when you look at linemen, you just look at the negatives more than anything, right? Like, you'll see the sacks given up, you'll see those pressure plays, but people tend to forget the impact plays that he had blocking on the ground, just bring some of those Khalil Herbert runs, or some of the plays that he actually didn't allow pressure because everyone else is focusing on everything going on in that play because he did his job. And, it's one of those positions where if you're doing your job right, you're going to go very underrated, unnoticed. And I think that there's more of that earlier in the season than we've seen over the last couple of weeks, but the competition has stepped up, and hopefully going up against guys like Sweat can just make him a little bit better as we get through this next portion of the season. It's not going to get much easier whatsoever. But for a guy who was drafted as late as he was to be in one of the most important positions of all football, to step in like he did, I think he's playing well. I don't think he's playing great. He's not top rookie offensive lineman or anything of that nature, but he's been good. And I think he's the 3rd best one for the Bears in terms of overall consistency. Although, like I said, Dominic Robinson's definitely made, I think, more splashes that get people excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to still be ranked top 5 in rushing in football, and he's a part of that, and you could be like, well, that's because they can't pass, they run the ball. Well, tell that to Matt Nagy's offense the last few years, because they couldn't pass the ball or run the ball. So at least we've figured one thing out on offense, and they are running the ball effectively, and he's a part of it. So I think that's a really good point when it comes to only noticing the bad plays and not noticing the quiet. Like when Khalil Herbert breaks off a 60-yard run and he does his job, nobody overanalyzes that, as much, unless you're pushing a guy like Tevin Jenkins 15 yards away from the play.
Exactly. And I've done my red zone report each and every week, and I feel like the days in which the Bears are excelling on the ground inside the 20, Braxton Jones is a big part of that too. So I want to give him that due. And now he does give up the most pressures of all offensive tackles in his draft class. But again, there are these are the guys that were drafted so much higher than he was, much higher expectations. And it's not by much. It's only 3 or 4 pressures that are the difference between him and the next 5 or so down the list. So it's all very close. All right. So Nick and Greg, since you guys had opposite, is the inverse true for you guys? So Dominic for Nick, and then of course Braxton for Greg.
You got it. That's exactly where I'm going. Dominique Robinson right after Braxton. Like you guys mentioned, he's had splash plays to start, but he's been pretty quiet here the last few weeks. So that's why he would have easily gotten the number 3 spot, if not the number 2 spot, if he could have carried that momentum he had to start the season. But the defensive line pressure has become non-existent here as of late.
Yeah. And same as for the offensive line actually blocking, right? Been non-existent as of late. So we have the inverse there, and 3 and 4 there.
Well, as who said it in the chat, Laz said huge gap between two, and then the rest of the way down the gap, it falls off precipitously.
Ooh, that's a.
You like that?
That's like A+ word choice right there.
That, yep.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 complete. Who's number 5 for you guys? I know who number 5 is for me. Actually, let me start it off. I haven't started one. I'm going with Trenton Gill.
Yep.
Here, Mr. Consistency himself. Again, he's been good at punting, and again, not great, but at the same time, I feel like he's been punting a lot, but hasn't been punting a lot from like the midfield area because the Bears have been more aggressive once they reach around that area of the field. But like I mentioned, top 15 in terms of net. For a rookie punter, he hasn't been a liability. Obviously, his holding has been fine. No matter if it's Badgley kicking or Santos kicking, obviously they've been good this season. So there's a lot of reasons to get excited, if you want to use that word here, for Trenton Gill. But to me, he is the 5th best Bears rookie to date.
Would you say that he's better than Dominique Robinson? Since Nick had Robinson higher than both of us, but would you put him higher than Robinson yourself, Will?
I didn't, so I'm going to say no. But in that, when we talked about it a bit more and like how we're framing it, I can be persuaded to maybe changing it.
Yeah. It's tough because, again, obviously, punter. Not that punters aren't people too, but
punters are people too.
Yes, they are. But it's like an impact position like an edge rusher, and still someone that's finding his role. But I think that factored into it. Why? Even Gill was up there, but it just came after the main position players, I guess, if you will.
And you're right, Will. We haven't seen too many opportunities for him to coffin corner or get one inside the 10. We normally, as we being the Bears, are going for it, more so in the middle of the field than they are electing to punt. So, that was a good point too.
I wish there was somewhere that would and I think, Nick, I talked about this years ago about someone that can track this stat, but if you can just track the average field position of punt, would help so much to put context about some of these punting statistics and where people rank, because where they punt on the field matters. You're not going for a 60-yard bomb if you're punting from the 50-yard line. It's impossible. There's only 50 yards to go, and B, you're trying to get that thing inside of the 20, inside the 10. So that does matter, and so that's still a stat. And if anyone knows of a website that tracks that, let me know, because I am curious. So is Gill number 5 for both of you?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to number 6, and let's go back to Greg.
Number 6, this is starting to get tricky here because we're down to Ebner, Velus Jones, and Jalen Jones. I guess I'm going to go with Treston Ebner, because if I say Velus Jones, I think Bears fans may never let me speak again because of how upset people are at Velus Jones. And maybe I'll get into my defense of Velus once we get to him. But I guess we got to go with Treston Ebner, because when David Montgomery went out, Ebner came in, and there really wasn't that much of a fall off with the running game. He's done well as the complementary back to Khalil Herbert when asked to do so. He's had a few times where they've had him play on special or return kicks. Maybe you're going to see more of that here come Monday with Velus having his struggles. So, I'm going to have to go with Treston Ebner. I think he has potential to be a good backup running back for the Bears here going forward.
Okay, we have one for Ebner. Nick, where's your mind at?
We have another one for Ebner. I got him there at was at the 6th spot now. Yeah, so I think that he has obviously hasn't had many opportunities. 13 carries in the 6 games, but yeah, I like what he's done, and obviously he's on the special teams unit as well. But somebody that if David Montgomery has to miss time, it's Khalil Herbert, Ebner. You don't feel like you're lost at the running back position there. right? I think that Ebner has done some good things this season, but he just needs more opportunities. But out of this class, I'm at number 6.
Okay, I disagree with both of you here. I think Jalen Jones is worthy of this position. Obviously, he had a lot more playing time in place of Jalen Johnson. And was it always pretty? No. Did he get any game-changing plays, interceptions, PBUs? No, but he was serviceable. And for a player that went undrafted to come up and play meaningful snaps at outside cornerback in the NFL, knowing that you're going to be an easy target, and he was targeted a ton too, he didn't give up a single touchdown. And I think that's really impressive for him and what he was able to provide the Bears as that Band-Aid, that placeholder, as Jalen Johnson was on the sidelines for a couple of weeks. So I'm giving it to Jalen Jones here because, again, was he amazing? No. Again, we're getting towards the bottom of this list, but he was fine. And in many ways, he was better than some of the other players on defense in those games, too. He wasn't like the obvious weak link that teams were exploiting and winning games because of. And I thought that was a big concern I had when he first got into the lineup. I was like, oh boy, he can lose us some games. And I don't think that has actually ended up being the case.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Will. Didn't he lead one of the games in tackle? Or maybe I'm like way off on that mark. It was close. He was high up there. I'm trying to see which game that was, but of course I'm not finding that stat. Probably
they went at him. They went at him in the Minnesota game though too. I mean, I understand what you're saying. We're getting down on the list, so it's not overstating with what you're saying, Will. And it's also understandable that he's going to be targeted when he comes in. Jalen Johnson isn't in. But they definitely seemed like they were picking on him in the Minnesota game.
But again, though, like he didn't give up a touchdown to Jefferson or Thielen or anything in that nature. Did he give up yards? Sure. But at the end of the day, like he wasn't the one that gave up the points. And again, we're just debating between Ebner and Jalen.
Right,
Jones.
He's not a high class.
We're
not talking about Kyler. I understand. Yeah, I totally understand the context.
There we go. All right, so my next one is Ebner. Again, as a kick returner, when he had those opportunities early in the year, I thought he was fine. He made some bigger returns too, and you guys already mentioned what he's been able to provide in offense. It's just been the snaps have been very scarce for him, and it's hard to know exactly what he can provide in a larger sample size until it happens. But he hasn't been bad. It's just been one of those players where you wish he saw more of, because if he did, he could definitely earn himself higher rankings on this list. And are you guys going with what do you guys got? Jones. Are you going with Jones next?
You go. Jalen
Jones.
Okay. See what I did there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Going with Jalen Jones for our 7th spot. Wait, that's where you're at, Greg? Are you at Jalen Jones or are you at Velus Jones?
I like Velus. Everyone hates Velus. I like Velus. I liked him at camp. In the limited time that I saw him, he looks a lot like Cordero Patterson to me. He's got a long way to go. He fumbled 2 punts that costed them games, especially this second one because they had the lead. The first one, they were down 7, so we still would have had to score. I blame the coaches more than I blame Velus for having him in there to even try to catch that punt, because he'd already fumbled 1 to cost you a game, and he looked skittish the entire game on Thursday night, and you had all game to recognize that and take him off. Other fans were pointing this out, but you as a coaching staff were just hoping that it was going to work out and no colossal failure was going to happen. And then it does. Lightning strikes twice. So I blame the coaches for that. Velus Jones has a touchdown in his first snap on offense. And then in the last game, a key first down on 3rd and long, they run a screen. Who's going to make a play on this offense? He is one of the guys that will make a play. So before Bears fans run him out of town, I understand he's not a top line. He's not Garrett Wilson. He's a 3rd-round wide receiver, and he has talent. Is he a developmental wide receiver just as much as maybe Braxton Jones is a developmental left tackle? Absolutely, but he has a lot of talent. And so I understand Bears fans are going to use him as the scapegoat as far as putting all their blame and hatred on him for the loss on Thursday night, and understandably so. It was a colossal mistake. But I am going to stick to my guns when it comes to Velus Jones. He can make plays, so I'm putting him ahead of Jalen Jones because I see the potential in Velus, and I don't want to dog him as much as I'm not bringing the pitchforks and the axes with the rest of the Bears Twitter mob. I won't do it. Standing strong.
I like it. Nick, anything you want to add on yours real quick? I can talk about why Velus is last on my list as much as – and Greg, you know as well as anyone else here that I'm on the Velus Jones hype train as much as you. And I am so rooting for this kid. It just wasn't – the losing of 2 games is really hard to not put weight on it. And I understand your thoughts about coaching. And to me, that's like a double-edged kind of decision, right? If you pull them – and you're like not showing confidence in him, although I understand like maybe there wasn't a lot of reason to have confidence, but you want him to have that confidence. You want to demonstrate confidence to these young players too. And so that's a tough situation. You just wish he would have caught that damn punt, not try to slide and let it bounce off his face mask.
He didn't look confident all night. I mean, even on the ones he didn't field, he let one go that he easily could have caught and it rolls into the red zone. So,
well, we don't know if he easily could have caught it.
That's true.
Like we've seen that. We don't know if it would have been easy. Unfortunately, he didn't want the one go who did. And again, like this dude was second in all of college football last year in punt returns on average. He was really good. It's just for some reason, since coming back, that hasn't been a part of his game that has been impactful. But you're right, though. On offense, he's been pretty good with his limited looks and limited touches. And I'm hoping, we get more of that and he continues to grow on offense. And if so, like he can quickly, because of how dire the situation is in offense for playmakers, he can quickly move himself up to top 3, top 4 contention and flip this within a few games. It's just a matter of getting those chances.
No, how many wide receivers have touchdowns on this team? He's got one. He's got one.
And he's done a great job of just getting those yards after contact, those yards off of those plays around the line of scrimmage. Like they're not downfield targets, but he's making guys miss, reading those key blocks, having patience, and getting a lot of those yards after the catch, which is a big part of his game in college. Again, as we mentioned, we had the whole draft class in yards after catch per reception. And I think that's been on display, and I'm excited to watch that grow. All right.
Hey, shout out to Josh Blackwell of the guys we didn't mention that are on special teams.
I agree.
Josh Blackwell has played really well on special teams. Has almost had a couple almost big time plays that just like the one where he had a forced fumble, but they got it back. But he's also made some big plays too. I think he did have a fumble recovery as well.
Yep. Giants game.
Yep.
All right. We need to give a message to our listeners from Chi-Town Cornhole real quick. And I'll let Greg do that. But before we get to it, Nick, are you just staying for the last 10 minutes at this rate? Or are you? I need to know.
I probably got to bounce, to be completely honest. Got to go
That's
get that
fair.
car. Yep.
I will take responsibility for making Nick stay for another 30 minutes. I talked too much.
He seemed like he had fun. It wasn't that much of a hostage situation, or a Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you end up
all good.
You're the people holding you hostage. But Nick, thanks for hopping on tonight. Looking forward to working with you later in the week for our preview show, which this week, by the way, everyone listening, is on Friday because of the Bears playing on the Monday night. So our preview show that we do every Thursday is getting moved to Friday this week. So we will see that. Are you on the show tomorrow, by the way?
I don't even know. Yes, I'll be at Hallis Hall. So it's a weird schedule at Hallis Hall too, right. But I will be reporting live from there for a couple minutes of the podcast. So tune in for that and for all the Bears coverage throughout the week.
There you go. I'm on tomorrow too, and we have some fun things in store. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow, Nick. Have a good night. All right.
All right, you guys. Have a good one.
Later. All right, Greg. Over to you. Chi-Town Cornhole.
Yes, want to talk to you guys about Chi-Town Cornhole. Chi-Town Custom Cornhole, the #1 cornhole provider for Chicagoland and Illinois since 2007. Their signature box style design can be digitally printed, covered in vinyl, and painted. Their cornhole boards come with built-in drink holders, recessed on the back, LEDs that light up the hole and exterior, handles for easy carrying, and handcrafted scorekeepers. They're veteran-owned and operated. They can ship anywhere and offer local pickups in the Chicagoland area, specializing in corporate designs for your company's next marketing or social event, wedding gifts, and gifts for all occasions, and especially for tailgaters and backyard barbecues as barbecue season's starting to wind to a halt, but tailgating season never stops. if you're a football fan and especially a Chicago Bears fan. So go check out their website, ChyTownCornhole.com, and make sure to follow them on Instagram at ChyTown Custom Cornhole Boards.
Good stuff there, Greg.
I had one slip up, but I'm doing, every week I'm going to continue to get better at this.
I like it. Good work there.
It's like the Bears, each week we will gradually get better.
That's the hope. That is indeed the hope. I have one more message to share. Your kicker's lining up for an onside kick. The chances of regaining possession are slim. The stakes are high, and the tension is higher. Your pulse racing. He kicks, and you watch as the ball lands. Now make every play feel this exciting with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NFL, and their unbeatable offers. Right now, new customers can make any $5 NFL bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. So check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Looking into the next week, I'm already looking forward to hitting Khalil Herbert on the over in terms of the yards that they expect him to get, because as we've seen, it just takes one carry and Herbert's going to already do that. He did that last week and I hit and I loved it. And to make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped up same game parlays once per day, all season long. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code CHGO to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Just place a $5 bet on any football game, only at DraftKings Sportsbook using the code CHGO.
Beautiful.
All right.
The way you started that was very mysterious, and you threw me off because I thought you were talking to me, and I was really wait, where are we going with this? My team has an onside kick. I'm like, for what? And then you went right into the ad read. That was a pros pro move, Will. You threw me a curveball there.
Thank you. It said ramp up the tension. And so
I felt it. I was like, what is about to happen here?
Good. I'm glad. The new, first day with DraftKings, and we're already nailing those ad reads. So, you love to see it. Thank you, Greg. So we ranked all of the rookies now that were 1/3 roughly through the season. Again, 17 games. They make it weird to do even math, unfortunately, but I'm going to call this the third point, or however, again, I wanted to say it. So to end off the show, we have about 10 minutes. I wanted to do best thing, worst thing, biggest surprise, and biggest disappointment so far this season. So Greg, we started with some positives. What has been the best thing to you so far this season for the Bears?
Best thing for the rookies?
No, just the team in general.
Just the team in general. Man, that's a tough one because there has not been much that's good. I mean, we talked about it earlier, so I'll just double down on it. It looks like they hit on their first two picks with Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. And I understand there's still fans that are still wringing their hands, especially last week, whether it's George Pickens or Alec Pierce or whoever that they wanted in one of those spots in the draft. But regardless, Ryan Pohl's evaluation of Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon were correct. And as, someone in the chat said, 7 of these 11 rookies are keepers. Maybe not, but at this point they are producing at certain levels, and their top 2 picks are starting to produce at a high level. You saw Jaquan Brisker get a sack. Kyler Gordon's playing physical, open field tackles. The interceptions aren't there yet, but these guys are players, and that shows me that Ryan Poles has trust in his draft evaluation process, has courage in his convictions, takes the guys he wants, and now they've worked out. That's a good thing going forward, and you just hope that he has as good of an evaluation process with the offensive players that we all know we need and hope will come. So, I would say that's probably the biggest positive here for the bigger picture of the future of this franchise.
Mine is very similar to yours, and mine is just the young guys getting experience across the board. I don't care if it's offense, defense, special teams. This Bears team is very young, and you have a lot of young players playing all across the board. So for me, just getting that experience now in a year that, as we can tell, is going to be a struggle, will help this Bears team build what you and I were talking about last week, that foundation that Ryan Poles can utilize to build this team to his vision, mold it into the future. And I think starting these rookies, playing these young players, which is totally different compared to what we saw over the previous regime, will help expedite this instead of keeping them on a bench and then having to kind of deal with the inexperience down the road. So getting the experience now to me has been the best thing. And I'll jump right into our worst thing because I want to get this out of the way because this one really hurts, Greg. And you may just want to cover your ears. And it may not surprise anybody, but it is the run defense. There you go. Perfect. It's the run defense has been the worst thing for the Bears this year. They're giving up 163 yards per game on average on the ground. That is the most. And I went back all the way to 2003, and then I decided to stop. But this is the most since 2013 when they gave up 161 yards on the ground per game on average. And if you're wondering about that 2013 defense, if you forgot, it was God awful. It was really, really bad. How bad was it against running stopping the run? It was the worst, Greg, run defense the Bears have ever deployed was 2013. They allowed 2,583 yards rushing that season. The Bears are on pace to top that this year with 2,771. Of course, it does take an extra game, so I want to put that in consideration. But even without the extra game, they're still on track to give up the most yards on the ground that they ever have in the history of the Chicago Bears. And that's bad.
Really bad. I gave Corey Wooten crap for that on one of their shows a couple weeks ago. I said, Corey, you guys couldn't stop a nosebleed with Mel Tucker. And he's like, all right, Braggs, next time I see you, no more handshakes, no more dapping you up. I was like, I'm joking, but seriously, you guys couldn't. So, no, you don't want to be compared because that was an aging defense. Now, this is a younger defense. It did lose some key pieces. So, understandable. I think Mark Harmon was all over this when he talked about his concern for the defensive line going into the season. And I think some of us had higher hopes than others. They lose Khalil Mack and, no more Eddie Goldman in the middle, Akeem Hicks. And I understand those guys were injured for a lot of last year, so it wasn't like they had them all year last year either. But at the same time, when you have those guys, it's a different presence. It's a different presence in the locker room. Robert Quinn's been a big disappointment because you were really hoping he can at least be trade bait. And now you're kind of, it's like you wish you had already traded him because his value is just dropping at this point.
Exactly. What's your worst thing?
My worst thing is always going to be the big picture with Justin Fields and his lack of development at this point. Maybe the worst thing was the fact that they couldn't carry what they did in Minnesota to this last week, but just overall the development of Justin Fields is stalled. We've had some ups and downs, more downs than ups. The last couple weeks, I think there has been some light at the end of the tunnel, some things that you can take from. So you hope that they can continue that and maybe even Monday night have a nice night. But my expectations are so low going into each week, and the DraftKings, guys that are putting their props in place, mirror that when they're putting up his total yard over under, and it's like 170, 160 is at one point against the Giants. It was the lowest over under that they've ever placed on a quarterback. And understand that that's not all Justin Fields' fault, but it's just so frustrating when we're hoping he could take another step in his development. And at this point, you can't really say that he has, other than the Minnesota game. He showed a lot of heart here this last Thursday night. But he also made a lot of mistakes himself, especially early on in the first half. So that's definitely the worst thing happening right now, is that we can't get better development from Justin Fields. And I don't know, it's not going to be possible to get, good, any kind of good development that we're looking for this season for the rest of the year. There's no fixing this problem until the offseason. So that's by far and away the worst thing because it just gives more question marks than answers heading to the offseason.
Yeah, that's what I put for my biggest disappointment was just the overall lack of pass protection, not really being able to set this team up to help Justin anyway. And I knew coming into the season that they weren't setting him up for massive success and really even like a ton of success at all. But to the degree in which it's failing him, I think is like my biggest disappointment this season. And just real quick, my biggest surprise, a lot of people I would assume would say like Robert Quinn and like his kind of quiet season, but we've talked about in this podcast a lot where his career is kind of like a roller coaster, a really good year, really bad year, really good year, bad year. I kind of assume that we're going to kind of have one of those valleys after a big peak last season. So I think right now my biggest surprise is something we've already talked about, which is Velus Jones and those punt return problems. Like that was the last thing I ever expected from him coming out, being a dynamite returner, someone that was known for being explosive in that regard and consistent and someone that you can rely on. And he's been anything other than that right now as a punt returner. So that's been my biggest surprise. So real quickly, Greg, biggest surprise and biggest disappointment, and then we're going to sign off.
Yeah, my biggest disappointment probably at this point you could is Velus Jones one maybe, but also if I wanted to take it to a more serious, player on the team that has a bigger role is Roquan Smith. He hasn't had a very good year. The off season was a struggle with this holding out and the drama of releasing, his feelings on how much he deserves to get paid, and then not really backing it up with his play, missing key tackles in crucial moments. I just feel like Roquan is better than what he's shown. The Packers game, he's getting destroyed last week, or was it? It was last week, getting completely blown up by Carson Wentz. Even Corey Wooten said it like, hey, everybody gets crackback blocked, but you can't leave your feet from a quarterback. And they're going to be giving him crap about that in the locker room. So he's probably my biggest disappointment. Yeah, my biggest surprise then I guess I would go with Velus Jones and not being able to, his injury, but at the same time, it's just been a surprise that he hasn't been able to be a bigger part of this team just overall, and to come back and be very limited offensively has been a disappointment surprise. So I don't know. I struggle to find a good surprise so far for this season because there just hasn't been very many bright spots. Unfortunately, maybe Eddie Jackson and the step up and how quickly he's taken to this defense and the veteran role he's taken, the leadership role he's taken, I guess would be a better surprise candidate if I scramble here in the pocket at the end.
There you go. Yeah, surprise can go one way or the other, but I appreciate you trying to find like a good one for us to kind of highlight too. So that's been about it here for tonight's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, it's time to start focusing on the week ahead, and that is going to be the New England Patriots. And Greg, there's actually a lot on the line this week for this game that actually it has me concerned, because if they beat the Bears, Bill Belichick will surpass George Halas for the second most wins all time for a head coach in the NFL. That would suck. But Bill Belichick sees like that he can do this against the Bears, and he's going to have his team wanting to achieve that goal for him. So I expect this Patriots team to be one that's firing on all cylinders, playing for their coach and trying to give him this accolade, and in a way that's going to kind of hurt the Bears franchise in a bit too along the way. Like that would suck, watching Papa Bears, record him move down a peg.
Yep.
Against losing to the team that you actually beat in the Super Bowl. There are a lot of different parallels here. If you want
and Bill Belichick certainly appreciates the history of the NFL. As he beats the Browns last week to tie the record, and he started with the Browns. And I saw on Twitter that he stopped the team bus and had him get out and, pay homage to the Jim Brown statue outside of the Brown Stadium. So I know he appreciates the history and has probably a lot of respect for George Halas. So we've lost, Packers are moving up past us in the franchise wins. I'm not sure if we're tied at this point because the Packers are struggling, but now Papa Bear Halas is going to fall down a peg, but Bill Belichick, one of the all-time great coaches. So, and has had an amazing run here these last 20 years And it doesn't seem like any end in sight as far as his coaching prowess is concerned. I know they're not the Tom Brady Patriots, but it's going to be a tall task. And, I just want to continue to look bigger picture. I like that we tried to find some positives tonight, on both sides of the ball. And that's what we got to do. It's most weeks we're going to be talking about losses. They might scratch a few wins away, but we talked about, keep talking about foundations. And I know people want Robbie Anderson, the Bears to give up draft equity for Robbie Anderson, or even more so with DJ Moore, a second round pick, third round. No, you don't fix a foundation of a house. When we go out and lay brick, if somebody wants us to patchwork a house, we're just going to be back there in 3 years patchworking that again. You want to fix the problem, you have to tear it down and redo it. And that is what the Bears are doing. So you have to have some patience. You have to understand it has to be ripped from the ground up. And that way the foundation is solid and the house is beautiful. And then you don't have to worry about us coming back and patchworking again here in 3 years as Brickies or George McCaskey in that sense with the Chicago Bears. That is how you do a true rebuild. And it takes patience and it takes time and it takes money. So go ahead and spend that money in the offseason, George. That helps too.
There you go. Great analogy to kind of end the show. And yeah, Greg, I think the good thing about us partnering here at CHGO is like people get two of the most positive outlooking Bears fans that kind of have a space to talk about the Bears here in one show. And it helps, at least it helps me. It's therapeutic. And, there's a lot of things that are negative in life nowadays, and to find ways to be positive, even if things aren't overly great, I think is a great mindset to have overall. And I'm glad that we both embody that here on the show. But as I mentioned, I'll be back on the show tomorrow. We have a fun show in store for you with Adam, Mark, myself, and then Nick will be hopping on to lots of goodies coming your way. Our preview show will be on Friday, but I'll see you tomorrow. Greg, good stuff tonight. And well, bear down, Chicago.